Hi kids, Mr. Galvan here. So today I'm going to go and begin reading to you. I'm going to be reading to you out of a book that all of you either need to get to read or you could just listen to these videos. Okay? Now the book is one of my favorite books and I promised you we're going to be doing the book. It's called Bandit's Moon. Now I know it's a little bit backwards because I'm doing this on my new iPad, but I wanted to make sure that all of you could see this and that my new iPad works. Okay? There's about 20 pages in chapter 1. So I'm not going to stop until I'm done with the first chapter. Now, the first chapter, again, it looks like this. Chapter 1, and it's I hide. That's what it is, I hide. Please listen carefully, and if you don't get anything, I want you to rewind the video, stop it, ask yourself some questions. What can you infer? What can you clarify? You can annotate inside your writer's notebook. I'm sorry, your reading notebook, not your writer's notebook. And then you could go ahead and answer the questions on your Google assignment. Here we go. Bandit's Moon, Chapter 1. I had hardly got 3 miles down the road when Ch1a Mary herself caught me running away and locked me up in the harness room off the barn. It was infernally dark, and I knew there were black widow spiders inside there. I tried to keep my mind off them, except to think that Ch1a Mary could give black widows lessons in meanness. I had been padlocked almost a week when I heard someone come around the pond on the winded horse, frightening off the squawking ducks and mud hens. I heard a yell, "Mary! Ch1a Mary! That Mexicans are coming after you. The whole gang of them. Run for your life. They ain't far behind." It was hardly a moment before a key started rattling in the padlock. Ch1a Mary flung open the door. The white afternoon sunlight about blinded me. She tore through the saddles of harnesses and general trash until she came up with a scuffed red hat box and the tips of yellow feathers sticking out the lid. I'd been using the box to eat on when she remembered to bring me some food. I could hardly imagine that she'd ever owned a pretty hat. She had a head of hair as matted as a dead cat's. But hadn't I heard her say she'd once been with the circus or a showboat or something? That must have been 100 years ago, I thought. I don't know what her real name was. She told me that everyone called her Ch1a, because her eyes were always open and didn't forget. She gave the lid of the box a smile with that fossil face of hers and then seemed to notice me for the first time. "Out of my way, child. Run for your life." "What on earth for?" "Annie Rose, didn't you hear? That cutthroat don't spare women and children. Why are you standing there, contrary orphan? Run!" "Well, I'm not exactly an orphan," I said. "After all, I had kin. I had a brother still alive." "Well, it's no skin off my bones if that confounded outlaw murders you in your shoes." If I'd wanted to argue fine points with her, I'd have reminded her that they weren't my shoes either. She'd sold my New Orleans petticoats and dresses months ago. She had me walking around in the same boys' cast-offs, shirt and pants, and brown boots as curled up as dead fish. There's Ch1a Mary and Annie Rose dressed up as a boy. "Don't claim I didn't warn you," Ch1a Mary shouted, pushing me out of the way. "And don't think he'll spare you. It's the devil on horseback riding this way. It's Joaquin himself." I answered, calm and snooty, "He isn't coming after me." "Stupid girl," she snapped. "His arms drip blood up to his elbows. And if he don't finish you, there's Three-Fingered Jack to do it. They'll cackle over your bones, the whole gang of them. Pesky foreigners, greasers." That was what she called her Mexican help when she had any. The foul and lumpish woman didn't have a good word for anyone. "You don't aim on coming back, do you?" I asked, hoping I might be seeing the last of her forever. "Even if they burn the place to the ground, I'll be back," she snapped. Moments later, I saw her and her hat box racing down the road in her dusty black buggy. It was piled with loose dresses and her big goose-feathered mattresses, all rolled up and puffy as a cloud. With the horse whip held aloft, she struck sparks in the air. I'd heard the horrible tales about Joaquin, and they were sure enough to give anyone the fits. Now, as I saw dust rising behind the hill, I decided not to be passing the time on the porch, having myself a long first drink out of the water barrel. I got my few belongings in a pillow slip, in case the outlaws set the ranch on fire. My eyes lit on the bundles of hay standing out in the field like a flock of scarecrows. With my boot heels flopping in the dirt, I hurried to the fields and snugged myself inside the nearest sack of hay, but not too deep. I wanted to be able to see the famous cutthroat. As I waited, I thought I might be a true child of calamity, to be standing all covered with smelly hay. Ever since we'd set out for California, my mother and brother, Lank, and I had luck come leaping out at us. Crossing Panama on muleback to reach our ship in the Pacific Ocean, Mama had caught a jungle fever. We had had to bury her at sea off the coast of Mexico. When Lank and I had landed in San Diego, where Mama had planned to start a school, our money was stolen right out of Lank's left coat pocket. Not only our money, but all our papers, including a guide to the gold country up north that Lank had got hold of. It showed an X mark near a place where Mariposa was there, and supposed to be a rich vein of gold. In order to eat, we had to sell off Mama's trunk full of books, including all of Shakespeare in red leather bindings. And then Lank got it into his head to walk to the gold diggings a few hundred miles north, the both of us, and strike it rich like everybody else. He'd figured we'd outfit ourselves in Sacramento first. So we set out with all our belongings on our backs like peddlers. But you'd think someone had thrown a curse over me. Mama never believed in evil curses and hokey-pokey stuff like that, so I figured bad luck just happened. And when it did, Mama never spared it more than 10 minutes of her time and just got on with things. I tried to get on with things, but why couldn't I have tripped over my own long feet and broken my ankle in a better spot? Lank carried me to the nearest house, which was only a mile away. Tarnation. It turned out to be Ch1a Mary's horse ranch. Only she was just back from across the border in Mexico, and so powdered and gussied up you'd hardly recognize her. She splintered my leg with greasewood sticks and seemed as kindly as your grandmother. So Lank left me there to heal and said he'd send coach fare as soon as he could. And she said not to worry, for as soon as I could walk on my leg, I could do little things around the house to earn my keep. Lank was hardly out of sight when she pulled off her wig and put it in mothballs. The next day, I found her holding up my dresses and lace petticoats to the light. They disappeared to pay for my keep. I cried when she sold my violin in the black leather case and every note of my Mozart and Schubert. She even cut off my long yellow hair and sold it. With all the comings and goings around the place, it didn't take me long to figure out that she dealt in stolen horses and earrings and anything else you didn't hang on to with both hands and a foot. I think she must have stolen letters from Lank. He wrote me once from Sacramento to say he'd send me coach fare, but I never saw it. I was awakened from my thoughts by the squawk and ducks from the pond. When I looked out again, there came the bandits, about 10 of them, with their hawk's eyes looking out for the black shade of light of large straw hats. Yellow cartridge belts made X marks across their chest. The men looked as stiff as soldiers, and I wonder if they forgot they'd fought in the war we'd finish off with Mexico. The Mexicans had sold us California and Texas when it was over. But when it was over, my papa didn't come back. Closer and closer the horsemen came, walking their beasts now with only the silver jingle of spurs and the snort of a horse to disturb the afternoon quiet. I recognized a big Mexican by the finger missing off his right hand and figured he must be Three-Fingered Jack. My gaze shifted to the bandit right beside him. the one with the silver buttons running down his legs. He smiled. His teeth gave off a flash as white as oyster shells. That must be Joaquin, I thought. He made my blood run cold, smiles or not. I'd never been so near to murdering villains. It surprised me that Joaquin hardly appeared much older than my brother, Lank, who was 17. And the outlaw wasn't even as tall. He wore a red scarf around his long black hair so that he looked more like a pirate than a general leading his army of cutthroats. Step by step, he advanced. He frightened me even as though his arms weren't stained with blood all the way up to his elbows. He smoked a thin black cigar as crooked as a twig and wore 7 spurs, almost as big and spiky as sunflowers. He'd said something in Spanish, and his men began smacking the place, looking for Ch1a Mary. He dismounted and helped himself to the water dipper in the porch. As I peered out, I saw him staring down at the dust, studying it. He must have had a keen eye for tracking because he followed my fresh steps as directly as if I had left a trail of breadcrumbs like the kids in the fairy tale. I saw him pull a pistol from his sash, shift to one side, and cock back the trigger. Buenas tardes, Calico. I heard a whisper that old Mary was hiding. Do you wish a moment to say your last prayers? It is me, Joaquin. I was almost afraid to breathe. If the outlaw even saw a few straws jiggle, he might be edgy enough to fire. So I'm going to stop right there. We're on page 12 and wait for the next video of me reading to you guys. Bye now.